Don't you just love that music? Good evening, folks. Welcome, 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 one and all, to the Library of Mythical Ireland here in the Boyne Valley in Ireland. A very good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning, good middle of the night, wherever you are in the world, you are very welcome. This is episode number 208. Tonight we are exploring Father Seán Ó Duinn's In Search of the Awesome Mystery. But before we get there, a few things to note, as always. First of all, if you're here, please do feel free to have a chat in the chat. Say hello. We will say hello back. If you're watching on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel so that you'll get notifications of future videos and whenever we go live. And don't forget, as always, to keep an eye on and pay close attention to the ticker. The ticker tells you important things, and the ticker is announcing, as we announced last week, Mythical Ireland merchandise. Yes, it's finally here. Thank you to everybody who has ordered t-shirts, mugs, aluminium prints, jigsaws, hats, tote bags, phone covers, water bottles, and all manner of stuff. Since then, you're all very, very good. I've got to say hello to a few people before we start. First in the house tonight was the mighty Joe Butler from mighty Colorado, saying hello to the mighty Tua. Good evening to you, Auntie Joe. Auntie Joe wants me to show you more merch. I will show you something you may have seen before, but I want to say a very special word about something before we start. Erica Bowes in the house. Good afternoon to you. I hope you are keeping well as we head in the Northern Hemisphere away from midwinter towards the spring, with Imbolc coming round the corner and Bridget's Day, which in Ireland is officially a bank holiday, a public holiday this year for the first time. Isn't that fantastic? Present and accounted for, that is Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter, who adds 120 and counting. And she had me looking at the attendees to see how many there were. There's not quite 120. I suspect she's boasting about the temperature in Texas. It's hardly 120 Fahrenheit, is it? Anyway, tell me what that means. David Deneen is attending for the first time, I believe. I must mark this day on a calendar. This is my first time ever being early for anything. Well, David, you're very welcome to the live stream, watching on the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel, along with lots of others. I hope that you find your time here enjoyable, and I think you will certainly find the community very welcoming. Rex Fortenberry is in the house. May the force be with y'all. Well, and also with you. And with your spirit. Rex, you're very welcome. Helen Hirsch Chatter is saying hello from snowy South Dakota. Wow, it's due to get very cold here this week, so they're issuing ice warnings and all sorts of things, and snow in the west. David adds, me poor dad must have a headache from spinning in his grave at my midlife earliness. Were you always late for school, were you? Desiree Riley is saying hello in Colorado, where it is also snowy. A very good afternoon to you, Desiree, and to the pup. Barbara Murphy says, hello, everyone. Glad to say again, a rainy day in Tucson. That sounds very Irish. Rain. But Barbara, you're very welcome as always. Lynn Foley is saying hello from El Paso in Texas. Lynn, I'm not sure if we've seen you on a live stream before, but if not, you're very, very welcome. And if we have, you're very welcome also. I hope you're in good form. And David Deneen announces that he is from the snowy People's Republic of Cork. Oh, is it snowing in Cork? Wow. Don't tell my wife. She loves snow. She'd nearly insist on me driving down there just to see it. Irish technical thinker, who's Marcus, says, Gia Tua. Good evening to you and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Fergal Canton is saying, Fáilte from Kilkenny to the Tua. Fergal, Kilkenny, a fine place. You're very welcome. John Main is saying hello from a wet and windy San Francisco. Supposed to be dry for a few days. We live in hope. I tell you, you brought the Belmullet weather with you, John. You have to bring it back, you know. Hello, everyone from Clare. I'm not sure who that is. Is that Anne Scott Doherty? Probably. Desiree is cuddling up with the pups. Next, oh my God, next storm looks like 5 to 10 inches in Denver, says Joe Butler. Alan Hoskins is in the house in Ballina, Killaloe. He can never decide which one he prefers, so he names both of them. 'Tis a chilly evening. Once upon a time, Drogheda was actually 2 towns on the north and south of the Boyne. There you go. Leanne Delaney is saying, good evening from a very chilly County Down. Leanne, you're very welcome. And what better idea on a cold night like that than to curl up at the screen and hear some Irish myths. Sue Prenter's in the house. Good evening to you, Sue. Hope all is well. You're very welcome. Mariana Dunn is saying hello from a sunny Alexandria in Virginia. Well, Mariana, that is great to know. Spread it around. It was a lovely sunny day here. There was no wind. There was no rain. The only thing was it was cold, but we don't mind that. Una Sheehan says, hi, Anthony. Check Facebook messages. Read products and merchandise development. Thank you, Una. I will do that. And Rex tells us he's in Louisiana. Thank you, Rex. Thank you indeed. Barbara has her old cat, Master Yoda, snuggled next to me, and I'm about to light a fire in the fireplace. Wow, sounds lovely. Clear night sky. Mars is just above Orion to the right. Beautiful. I don't know who that is. Again, I have a Facebook user, and they're coming from the Mythical Ireland community, and I don't see that comment under the... Hang on till I just see if it's... Yeah, Anne Scott Doherty is the one who was in Clare. That's Wayne Bird. Hello, Wayne. Thank you. Forgive me for the glitch. It's a constant ongoing thing between Melon app, which is the streaming service, and the Mythical Ireland community. Even though I have allowed the app on the Mythical Ireland community, they're not connecting properly, and the name doesn't appear. Tom King is in the house. Hello there, Anthony, and all the mighty too. I hope all in mighty fettle. Looking forward to a mighty story. Yeah, you guessed it. A mighty fire going. That's just mighty. Yoo-hoo! Managed to get on today, says Sheila Gunn. Thank you for joining us, Sheila. Very good of you to be here. Barbara, I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it Chudi? Barbara Chudi Del Carlo says, newbie here too. Well, Barbara, you're very, very welcome. We have lots of ladies named Barbara in the Tua, in the community. You're so welcome. Please pull up a chair, make yourself a cup of tea or something stronger if you like, and relax and chillax and be prepared to make new friends. Okay. Elaine is telling me the 120 is days to go until Wheels Up for Ireland. Brilliant stuff, Elaine. Adrian O'Beglin is in the house. Adrian, you're very welcome. Rosemary Elliott Mercier is also here. Rosemary, I'm not sure if you're new or if you've been here before. Either way, you're very, very welcome. Thank you for joining us here on episode number 208 of Live Irish Myths. We hope that you enjoy your time here and that you find it inspirational. Pat Maddox is in Cincinnati in Ohio. Pat, a very good afternoon to all our Ohioan friends. I don't recognize your name. Not sure if you've been on a stream before. Some new faces and names tonight. You're very, very welcome. Hope you enjoy your time here. And you may even get some free humor thrown in. You never know. Good evening, all under. We are snow here in Mallinhead. That's Cafin. So it's snowing in Cork and it's snowing in Donegal. It is not snowing in the Boyne Valley, not yet. Send some of it this way because my wife would be very pleased to see snow on the ground in the morning. Nora Gaffney O'Connor says, gee, you've been so long. Have you been out in the sea? Did the sea get you, Nora? Did it carry you away to some mystical island and set you down among handsome men to be served upon all day long? Or is there a much more prosaic reason for your absence, like work or something? Nora, it's always a pleasure to see you. Happy New Year. David says, it's written in my will that I'm to turn up late for my funeral. I kid you not. That's how bad it is. I blame ADHD. My son thinks I need a watch with electric shock. Yeah, they do say that here in Ireland, don't they? Oh, that fella, he's always late. Sure, he'll be late for his own funeral. Marcia Downs is in the house. Hope all is well with all here. All good here anyway, Marcia. Very nice to see you, and hope you enjoy the live stream. Adina Sparks is saying it's cold and stormy in New Mexico. I refuse to believe it. I have this idea that New Mexico is a dry, hot state. and that it is in a constant dry and hot state. See the word play? Never mind. Adina, I hope that passes, and you get back to normal. Karen Faye O'Loughlin says, lovely day before the coming snowstorm. Sean Logie says, glory stars from Dura in the land of Era. Well, Sean is in the city of Derry. Sean, you are very welcome to our live stream. Hope you enjoy yourself and make yourself comfortable. And McCallum is here. Hope everyone's in great form. We're enjoying a balmy 3 Celsius with lovely sunshine at the moment. Sounds, pardon me, just like the sort of day we had today. It was colder yesterday, but sunny. And kids were out on their skateboards in T-shirts. And I actually saw a man jogging down by the river wearing only shorts, no top. He's just showing off. He's like, I don't think it's cold. You're all wusses. And Gary, the full Irish, is in the house. Giagrich, great, or the library even, and good too. Another fine day on the sod Banachty from under the snow-topped gaze of Seafin. Brilliant stuff. So the Wicklow Mountains are also covered in snow. So there's a lot of snow around. Adrian says he's tuned in with his cat Monty. I really will have to set up a Mythical Ireland Pets pay group on Facebook. I'm just going to have to do it. I'm getting the hint, folks. I'm really getting it, Kaylee During is in the house. That is the very famous YouTuber, History with Kaylee. Good evening, Anthony. Hope you're well. How's the weather in Ireland? It's cold. In the Netherlands, it's been 2 weeks of rain and wind. Well, that sounds very Irish. We've had lots of rain over the winter, in fairness. Kaylee, you're always very welcome to the stream. Hope you're keeping well. Your channel goes from strength to strength. Carol Ann Lunn is saying good morning from Sydney, Australia. The first viewer announcing that she is in Tuesday while the rest of us are still in Monday. Carol Ann, you're very welcome to the live stream. Good morning to you and all our friends down under. Nora Gaffney Connor has Sable, my Labrador, and Akita. Labrador Akita mix, and Jack Russell called Jesse. See, there's definitely going to be a pets group. I have to do that this week. I have to do it. Desiree, please feel free to give me a polite nudge, Mark Gordon is saying hello from Iowa. Good afternoon to you, Mark. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. David says, I saw your stream with the prehistory guys. The one thing that stood out was you sitting on the fence, read truth of books, etc. Hopefully in a month or so, I might get 1 foot on the ground with my mad ranty. Ranty? Sean Logie says it's snowing in Ulster. Snowing everywhere except for the Boyne Valley. Just got word from a friend in Foxford. It's forecast for snow tonight. Yes, indeed. It's to be a cold week here. Tom will need to put a few extra lumps of coal on the forge fire out in Bohermeen. In the forge of the smooth road. This Facebook user is Christy Ruby Tuesday O'Grady. Christy Ruby Tuesday O'Grady, who's in Derby, England. And the flurry of snow was so small, apparently, that you wouldn't know it snowed at all. There you go. Christy, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us on Live Irish Myths. Who's in Canada at the moment? That's Fiona Newman. Fiona Newman, Happy New Year. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. And I hope it's nice in Canada. And I hope you're enjoying yourself. Good of you to create the time to watch the stream. Patricia Pack is in East Central Alabama. We have fared well from the awful tornadoes. Our thoughts are with the others that didn't. That's very nasty, isn't it? Yeah, our thoughts indeed with all those, who have been affected. Freezing rain forecast in Ontario, says Sheila Gunn. I'll tell you, Sheila, please don't take this the wrong way, but you can definitely keep that on your side of the Atlantic if you don't mind. I am lucky is saying hello from the ancient town of Glukhov in Ukraine. Wow, a very good evening to you and all our friends in Ukraine. What a pleasure. Amadeus is so excited to hear you're going to start with Mythical Ireland Pets page, and he wanted to remind you to get some pet merch. It's on the list. Oh, it's on the list. It's a long list, but it's on the list. Derek Hollingsworth says, Hi, Achara, tá sé fura nocht. It certainly is. It's cold tonight. Hope everyone is keeping warm. From Dublin 15. Hello, Derek, and you're welcome to Live Irish Myths. Kaylee, during that upgrade is badly needed. Let's just say They're not just in stacks in front of the shelves. They're now in stacks on the floor as well. It's not good. I think I have a problem. No, I do not have too many books. No, I do not have a book addiction. I simply don't have enough bookshelves. There you go. Janet Moran is in the house and looking forward to today's episode. Well, I don't think it would be quite as pleasurable without you listening, Janet, to be quite honest with you. You're very welcome. Una is saying the snow may reach the Fúr Knock or the cold hills too up at Fornox. Yes, indeed. Becca02 caught alive. Gigrich from Martinsburg in West Virginia. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. And I hope you enjoy the live stream. Yes, I think we're all up to date with the comments. I've only got sort of one sort of major thing to talk about before we get underway. What time are we on? Oh my goodness me, we're already on 18 minutes past 8. Anyway, I know that you guys are not in a rush. Would you like some humor? Let me see if I can share this. Share. Screen 2, share. Hopefully I can show you this now. So I just want to say that in advance of Bridget's Day, which is now officially from 2023, from this year, going to be an annual bank holiday, or as we prefer to call it these days, public holiday, in recognition of Bridget, the saint and the goddess. And in order to mark that, well, you may have seen, some of you may have seen these before, but if you go onto the website and you go into the shop and you go into the drop down, you'll see there's hand forged artworks. And you know, of course, who forges these artworks, because we've spoken about him on many occasions, and he's here watching, as he is on almost every live stream that we've ever had. That is Tom King on Gowa out in the forge of the Smooth Road in Bohermeen in the Boyne Valley. So we were out there the other day taking some special photographs of these beauties. Look at this. So to celebrate Bridget's Day, Tom is creating these beautiful hand-forged steel Bridget's crosses. And they're beautifully made and beautifully finished in that greenish color that looks like the green of the rushes. But it's made of steel. It will never decompose. It will never fall apart. And if somebody breaks into your house, you can throw it at them. And I can assure you, it will do them some harm. Yet these are the Bridget's crosses. There's a large one, and there's a smaller, slight. They're not that much different in size, but there is a smaller version. So that's where you go, folks, if you want to order yourself one. Just a note to say, as it says on the website, please allow a couple of weeks for delivery, as each item is handmade to order. I have seen Tom hand making these. There is a huge amount of work goes into each one of those. And there's a picture of the large and the small side by side. Obviously, the large one on the left and the small one on the right. On the anvil in Tom's forge. Those photographs taken on Saturday. Yeah. So there you go. In celebration of Bridget's Day and the fact that it is now officially a public holiday, we have these beautiful items from the forge of the master smith. And that is, of course, the wonderful, the great, the talented Tom King. So there you go. Actually, sorry. Somebody asked me to show more merch. Can't remember who that was. Very briefly, because I know that we don't want this to turn into an advertisement and people are here to read. But if you go into the shop and you click down, you click the shop drop down, you see books, photographic prints, hand-forged artworks, calendar, merchandise, and gift card. Well, under merchandise, there are now 32 products. So you can get everything from a metal print of the Newgrange chamber or a framed canvas of same, to a jigsaw puzzle, to a t-shirt. I want to see all of you wearing these. I'm getting one, and I will wear mine. It's the I Watch Live Irish Myths t-shirt, and it's available in women's as well. There's the stainless steel water bottle with Newgrange moonset on it. There's the iPhone case with the Newgrange light beam on it. There's a mug. There's actually lots of mugs. Like there's the Newgrange entrance stone mug. There is the mouse pad. Yeah, there's the other mugs. Fornox chamber, fog at Newgrange, pillowcase. And look at this. When you change it, the picture changes to show you the different sizes. Isn't that clever? I love that. Anyway, get on to mythicalireland.com. Get yourself a Bridget's Cross. Get yourself some Mythical Ireland merchandise. Be the I don't know, be the cool one. Anyway, yes, talent show announcer with microphone says, ladies and gentlemen, can you please welcome our next act to the stage? They're a band called The Subtractions. Take it away, boys. Okay. Swiftly on. Yes. Three Arches in the house. Oh, long time no see, Katrina. Conas atá tú Machara. Kyle to me egg F or is that Father Odin August egg Mary Immaculate on Che nach Jigan on Fiblesh on Aglish in Aaron ni Higan Shay on Star. Something to do with not understanding the language, not understanding the history. And yes, indeed. I am very lucky, as I have boasted before. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this book before. I am very lucky to have a personally inscribed copy from the late Antahar Seán Ó Duinn, who was known fondly to his brothers, his fellow brothers in Glenstal Abbey as the Druid. So there you go. Dog and cat cushion, says Adrian. There you go. There it is. Take it away. Sally Siggins is in Sligo. Sally's scenes. Sally, thank you. I hope that we're going to see some nice photographs from you over the next day or two. Apparently it's going to be snowing over there if it's not snowing already. We've been told tonight that it's snowing in Derry, it's snowing in Donegal, it's snowing in Cork. And where else? Yes, the Wicklow Mountains have snow on them. Was a joke that went badly wrong. Language was Clogallach. Spike Willow is in the house. You're very welcome, Spike. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoy yourself. Tonight we are reading from a chapter that is called The Tradition of the Three Sisters. And this is from, as I say, In Search of the Awesome Mystery, Lore of Megalithic, Celtic and Christian Ireland. Father Seán Ó Duinn, OSB, although he doesn't use the father prefix, printed by or published by the Columba Press, published in 2011. Just in case you're interested in getting your own copy, I highly recommend that you do. Sally says, small bit of snow here already, but we are by the coast, so last to see it usually. Okay. Well, you need to get up into the mountains then, up to Carrow Keel, or I'm sure Queen Maeve's Cairn will have a, I'm sure Knocknarea will be nice and white, won't it? Or sure, look, you'll find something, I'm sure. Fishermen, when sailing out from Teelan Bay, lower their sails by way of salute on passing Tuber Naman Nave, take off their caps and ask for help and protection from the holy women. That is Tuber Naman Nave is the well of these saint women or holy women. Ali Giselle says, hello, right back to you. You're welcome. Henry O. Morgisa, in his authoritative article, The Holy Wells of Donegal, published in Beologus in 1936, informs us that there is another well near Tuber Naman Nave, that an alternative tradition said that it was to this well that the fishermen saluted. Drone is charging, says Sally. Brilliant stuff. Fergal says, an Irish astronaut was asked what his extravehicular walk was like, and he said it was special. The latter was called Tuber Nagorach, interpreted as Well of the Fair Winds. When Teelan boats were storm-stayed at Sligo, Ballina, or Belmullet, there you go, John Main, if this Tuber Nagorach were cleaned out, it would bring favourable winds. But there was a danger that a member of a family that cleaned the well would die. That's a bit risky, isn't it? I wonder, did they do a risk assessment before taking part in that cleaning up? In all of this matter of holy wells, it may be asked why they were so important to people in the past, and why so many of them have remained, in somewhat Christianized form, so popular among people today. In such a wet country as Ireland, one would hardly expect such devotion to water, but different factors have to be considered. If the holy wells go back untold ages into the megalithic period, when, as is so often pointed out, the climate was much warmer and drier than it is today, then it may be that the presence of a well was of vital importance to the local population. This is not a wholly satisfactory explanation, however, for a holy well is generally not used for domestic purposes. An ordinary well, not considered holy, is the type of well in use for domestic purposes. A very important distinction. Anna L is watching from Balbriggan in the county of Dublin. Hello there, you're very welcome. Apparently, it is tradition and the practice of ritual which point out that this particular well is a holy well, while another well only a short distance away is an ordinary domestic well. Many stories assert that the water from a holy well will not boil, or that evil will follow from lack of respect for it. This idea goes back a long time. The Rhoen den Shanachas tells the story of Boyne, the River Boyne, with which you guys, most of you, except for the newcomers, should be intimately familiar. It has been the subject of several of our live streams, and one of my books, the Boyne monograph number 2. Any of you who have read it, and of course there's lots of information on my website. Boand, wife of Necton, son of Lavry, went to the secret well which was in the green of Sheenachton. Whoever went to it would not come from it without his 2 eyes bursting, unless it were Necton himself and his 3 cupbearers, whose names were Flesk and Love and Loam. Once upon a time, Boand went through pride to test the well's power, and declared that it had no secret force which could shatter her form, and thrice she walked with her shins round the well, whereupon 3 waves from the well break over her and deprive her of a thigh and one of her hands and one of her eyes. Then she, fleeing her shame, turns seaward with the water behind her as far as Boynemouth, where she was drowned. Now she was the mother of Angus, son of the Dagda. And if you want to read the Irish version of that and the translation and the notes, that is in Revue Celtique, volume 15, 1894, pages 315 to 316. Yes, I have it on the shelf behind me, aren't I lucky? Here, out of contempt, Boand performs the Cor Tuhal, or left-handed withershins turn around the well, instead of the Cor Jeshel, or right-handed clockwise turn, which follows the course of the sun. The Cor Tuhal is the unlucky cursing turn, and the well punishes Bowen for her disrespect. Significantly, she is left with 1 eye, 1 hand, and 1 leg. The Favori, or dark gods, the enemies of the Tuatha Dé Danann, are often depicted as having only 1 eye, 1 hand, and 1 leg. The Boyne rises at Sheenachton, a sacred hill in the barony of Carbery in County Kildare. A very good morning to Adele Perth, who is down under. Lovely to catch a live again. It's lovely to be streaming with our friends from down under watching. You're the second one this morning. It's Tuesday where you are. It's still Monday where we are in A's and stuff. This may be the same well as the well of Segish, source of the Boyne. Around it grew 9 hazel trees. The hazelnuts fell into the water and were eaten by the salmon. This conveyed wisdom to the salmon, and to those who ate the salmon, the wisdom was transferred to them, as in the case of Fionn McCool. In this case, the Tubar Giavar, or mysterious well, was in Nuraland in Sheenachton, in the lawn or forecourt of the Shee. Here there is a very close connection. Thank you, Coda. Thank you for your, yes. Thank you for announcing your presence. Here there's a very close connection between the Holy Well and the She, or sacred hollow hill of the Tuatha De Danann, or A's She. One wonders if this were a common feature, the close sighting of the well and the She, and perhaps the exclusive use of the Holy Well by the A's She under normal circumstances, only to be used by the humans on those sacred occasions when the barriers between the two worlds are removed, such as at Samhain, Bealtaine, summer solstice, etc., when the Tuatha De Danann and humans co-mingle. One thinks immediately of the great She of Anya at Loch Gur in County Limerick, with its Patrick's Well as part of the complex, or indeed of St. Govnat's Well at Ballyvorny or Ballyvorny in County Cork, where the great St. Govnat is venerated. I was going to say generated. No, Anthony, it says definitely a V, is venerated as the protector of her people, to a degree of which any tutelary goddess might well be proud. Yes, all of the doggies are saying hello back to Coda. He just doesn't realize it. He's being heard halfway around the world. Logan mentions a tradition of 3 nuns in the Arda, County Longford area also. And remember, Arda is the place, the location of Brelay, where Midger had his She, where he brought Etain in Tuchmark Etain. I have heard a legend about 3 nuns accompanied by a big spotted cow, like an Ayrshire, who were going from St. Bridget's Well at Arda, County Longford, towards Slieve Glory. Here it will be noticed that the reference to St. Bridget and that according to Sanna's Cormac, there were 3 Bridgets. That is the glossary of Cormac's glossary. Daughters of Ondagda, king of Tuatha De Danann, of the Tuatha De Danann. They were Béileish, Béigshe, and Gaivnachta, Lady of Medicine, Lady of Poetry, and Lady of Metalwork. And of course, I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. I'm not the only one to have said it, and I won't be the last to say it. It is fascinating after you read the lives of St. Bridget, Vita Prima Sancte Brigida, and the Cogitosis' life of Bridget, which describes her as a very chaste and saintly woman who performs lots and lots of miracles. And the Cogitosis life of Bridget is apparently reputed to be a 6th century, or originated in the 6th century. And then you read the 10th century Sanna's Cormac, written by Cormac MacQuillenan, who was the Bishop of Cashel and the High King of Cashel. And in his entry, in his glossary, when he talks about Bridget, he does not refer to the saint at all, only what we would consider the goddess Bridget, the daughter of the Dagda, who was one of a triune, a triplicate, 3 sisters. One for poetry, one for medicine, and one for smithwork, which is another important link with Tom and the Bridget's crosses, which is why the flame of the forge is in those photographs I showed you earlier. A very important detail, that. Patricia says, Coda says, Dad, you must make a pet page. Yes, indeed, I must, but I'm not his dad. That was a Leslie Nielsen-esque joke there. Kathy May Deo is in the house on holiday today. Almost missed being here. Hope all are doing all great. And Kathy May, that's great that you're on holiday. You can watch the whole lot. Derek says he barks in Irish for those that don't speak Irish. Yes. I don't know if you ever saw that Far Side cartoon, Gary Larson's famous Far Side cartoons, where there's an inventor, I don't know what the inventor's name is in the cartoon, let's call him Dr. Let's call him Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith finally develops the device that will unravel or translate the language of the dogs. And he's going around with this machine pointing at the dogs, and the speech bubbles coming out of the dogs all say, hey, 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 hey. So after years and years and years of research and development and making this very complex device, he finds that all dogs are saying is hey, but they go, "Arr, arr," That's hey, hey. It's very funny. Barb Jordan is in the house. Hello, Barb. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. As always, hope you're in good form. Here they appear again, accompanied by a big spotted cow, symbol of the fertility of the land. This cow, quote, like an Ayrshire, unquote, is probably a folk version of the Glasgoblin, the magic cow, white with red ears, which often accompany St. Bridget and other notable personalities. She gives enormous quantities of milk to her followers, but departs on being insulted. Fair enough. The goddess, as patron of the arts, is linked to the Eas Dama, the Druids, Fili, Bards, the learned class of Celtic society, while her association with cows links her to the Bo-Ari, the farmers and food producers. Another significant point in this account is the connection. Robin Moon Shadows in the house. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths, Robin. Hope you're keeping well and enjoy the reading. Another significant point in this account is the connection between St. Bridget's Well in Arda and Slieve. Sorry, it's not Glory, it's Gallery. I may have read that wrong initially. It's Golry. And the fact that the three women were going from the well to the mountain. St. Bridget's Well is located at the northeastern foot of the hill. Slieve Gallery, or Slieve Galria, from the ancient tribe of the Calria, is only 650 feet high, but commands a spectacular view of the surrounding countryside and was one of the best known sites for the celebration of the Festival of Lunasa on the first Sunday of August, known as Bilberry Sunday. And of course, last August, in the company of Anne Geraghty Smith and a wonderful bunch of people, we walked across Arda Hill or Bree Lea, and some of us were able to actually pick bilberries. So there you go. Large groups of people climbed the hill to pick freachán, bilberries or whortleberries, the wild fruits of the beginning of the harvest season. Dancing, flirting, and general amusement on the hill made it a memorable occasion for all. The mountain was supposed to be the hunting ground of a giant. The name of the giant was King Midas of the mountain, or Midas. We had this before, do you remember? And he is said to have cellars and corridors, all leading to a castle in the interior of the mountain. There's a tradition of a tunnel leading from the top of the mountain to these internal buildings, and children attending the Festival of Lunasa were warned to stay with the others in case the giant pulled them down into the interior. We almost certainly read this from Moira MacNeill's Festival of Lunasa, probably last August as well. Moira MacNeill remarks on similar beliefs that were to be found in other such sites as Ard Éireann, Cahar Rose Den, Knock Fianna, Slieve Bloom, Keeper Hill, and Dún Briste. Apart from the Lunasa celebrations, however, Slieve Galria is identified with She Bree Lea, the home of Midger, one of the best known of the gods of the Tuatha De Danann. And that's the aforementioned hill that we walked across last August, which was a lovely day. It is sometimes surmised that he is a Celticized form of the Iranian god Mitra, whose cult was strong among the soldiers of the Roman Empire. M-I-T-R-A, sometimes spelled with a H, M-I-T-H-R-A. Whose cult was strong among the soldiers of the Roman Empire and travelled with them to such an extent that it was a serious rival of Christianity. However that may be, Midger Bree Lea, Yochi Aram, and Angus Og of Brunabonia, along with the goddess Etain, are central figures in perhaps one of the most haunting and mysterious romances in the whole of ancient literature, Tuchmarc Etain, of which we have spoken at considerable length on several live streams. So easy to find more if you want it. This long, complicated, and intensely moving love story in 3 parts leads into the magical tragedy Tugal Brunja da Durga, the destruction of da Durga's hostel, of which we had 4 episodes back to back. That was in 2020, and of which developed that famous phrase, "Not difficult that," in what might be called the Etain cycle. Perhaps the procession of the 3 sisters from St. Bridget's Well near Arda to Slieve Galria as recorded in the folklore account, is an echo of the Ducha Alla tradition of the three sisters going underground for part of the year. This would certainly be at Samhain, when vegetation has descended into the barren earth. Perhaps the three sisters at Arda, likewise at Samhain, vacated the upper world and, using the tunnel, descended to meet Midger in his castle in the hidden depths of the She of Brilé. In a similar way, in Greek mythology, Persephone descended into the underworld to Pluto during the barren months of the year, to return again at the appropriate season to restore the fertility of the land. The tradition of internal tunnels, corridors, and a castle in which the Tuatha Dé Danann, as She, live and carry on their ordinary social life, mentioned in the case of the She of Brilé, occurs also in relation to other sacred hollow hills, notably that of the god Dun Fianna at his She at Cnoc or Knockfearna, near Ballingarry in County Limerick. This area remained Gaelic-speaking for longer than many other areas and retained a rich corpus of folklore relating to the god Dun, associated with death, weather conditions, and the fertility of the land. The various traditions of the area were gathered together by Dr. Kate. Pardon me, apologies, folks. It's not like the material isn't interesting. Dr. Kate Muller-Lizowski, in her remarkable monograph, Contributions to a Study of Irish Folklore, Traditions about Dun. And that's from Beologus, which was published in 1948. Dun Fianna, which means Dun of Truth. He is popularly known as Dun of Truth, as by means of cloud formations over the hill. He warns the local people of impending bad weather, and he never leads them astray. Like the god Dun mentioned in Laura Gawala Éireann, whose She is at Checkdin, or Checkdin, as we've talked about before, a rock on Tarav, the bull rock, on the south coast of Kerry, and who said, quote, to my house, you shall all come after your death, unquote. The Dun of Knockfearna is also associated with life after death. One of the folklore collectors writes, the day before old C died, C ... the name is obviously omitted, just after the priest had a last interview with him, and as he looked through the low open window on Knockfearna, he told me that he would be up there soon, on the whaleback Black Hill, east of the Cone, where Dun was supposed to marshal his men. Mr. Liam Danaher, our informant, adds the comment, I was struck by the strong hold this stark paganism still held over minds, which after 50 generations of Christian baptism still clung to older beliefs. Fascinating stuff. And of course, that is a big factor in my own proposal that a lot of the myths, or a certain proportion of the myths, those pertaining to Brunavonia, for instance, go right back into prehistory. Dun is known by several names. Dun na Dubhce, Dun of the Sandhills, County Clare. Dun na Binna, Dun of the Hilltop, County Fermanagh. Dun Chnic na Nos, Down of the Fawns, County Cork, etc. They may well be all local manifestations of Dun, the Irish god of the dead, perhaps corresponding to Caesar's Dispater. I will try to read the following passage in Latin. Please forgive any errors. Galli se omnes abdite patre prognatus predicant idque ab drudibus proditum dicunt. And all of the Latin speakers among you are all nodding up. Yeah. Oh, got every word of that. Absolutely. Peter is in the house. Hello, Peter. And the translation is, the Gauls all assert their descent from Dispater and say that is the Druidic belief. Many people in the Ballingarry district believed that there were underground tunnels from Knockfearna to the mouth of the Shannon, to Tory Hill and other places. This resembles the situation at Brí, or Shivri, as he gives it here. But perhaps the most extraordinary story of Cnoc Fianna is that recorded by David Fitzgerald. I'm sorry about the yawning, folks. I'm not getting enough sleep. Doing too much work. Somebody tell my boss. Yes, is that recorded by David Fitzgerald in 1885, concerning, as it were, the interior life of the Sacred Hill. According to the account, a new farmer and his wife settled down near the Shee of Cnoc Fianna, and were very careful to divert the dirty water from the farm so that it flowed away from the Shee. The former owner of the farm had been very careless in this matter. This change did not go unnoticed by Dunn. He invited the farmer to his castle, which of course had not been visible before, and showed him around. He took him to a room in which were a large number of boys studying, quote, the mysteries of the creation since the stars began to shine, unquote. Wow, isn't that amazing? Dunn asked the farmer if he recognized any of the students. The farmer replied that he recognized his brother who had died 9 years previously. Dunn gave him the boy to take away with him. Then Dunn's wife took him to a hall in which a large number of girls were studying, quote, the virtues and weaknesses of women since Adam and Eve, unquote. Among them he recognized his sister who had died 12 years earlier. Dunn's wife gave her back to him, and when they emerged from the Shee, they both recognized their brother. The castle vanished, and the farm became prosperous. Wow. How is what spelled, Barbara? What do you want to know the spelling of? I shall inform you as soon as I know what you are referring to. This was done in a mood of benevolence. He was, however, often ill-tempered and violent. An old woman, believing she heard the voice of Dunn roaring in the storm, shrieked, Gia idir sin agus tulk, agus an tulk, that's God between us and the evil. Tá sé ag lasa le ferg. And that translates as, may God be between us and harm. He is on fire with fury. Wow. The local people, in a general way, were afraid of him, and he had powers of retaliation. Gifts were made to Dunn at Bealtaine and Samhain, so that while the people paid their respects, they kept at a safe distance from him. In this and many other respects, the situation resembles the cult of Crom Croch, and some scholars wonder if Dunn and Crov or Crom are not variations of the one divinity. Another Lunasa tradition associated with Dunn Fianna is his organisation of a ritual hurling match each autumn. Lunasa traditions, folks. Hurling at Lunasa, like the Éanach and the Henges, you know, that goes right back to Neolithic times. I have no doubt about it. Sounds like a prejudiced opinion, doesn't it? Maybe. This was a contest between his own Éis Shee at Cnoc Fianna near Ballingarry and the Tuatha Danann of Áine Cleach of Lochgur and Cnoc Áine near Hospital or Uspedale Áine in East Limerick. Unlike modern hurling, this was cross-country hurling. Wow. The ball was thrown in halfway between the two mystical sites, and each team battled over fields, bogs, rivers and streams, trying to get the ball back to their own Shee. If Áine's team got the ball back to Cnoc Áine, then the potato crop would be excellent in East Limerick that year, but would languish in West Limerick, in Dunn's area, and vice versa. Here we have a very interesting phenomenon of a supernatural hurling match played by supernatural hurlers, among whom a small number of outstanding human hurlers might be included, battling not for medals and a silver cup, but for the fertility of the land of the local area under the patronage of the local god or goddess. Fascinating stuff, I think you'll agree. Just let me do a quick sort of check on the page count. To return then to the question of the three saints in Munster. Apologies for making a margin note. An alternative tradition in the southwest Cork Kerry area gives a different three saints and assigns them to the same feasts, though at different locations. Is everybody okay? I'm not seeing any recent. I haven't seen any new comments in the past 3 minutes. I was expecting Barbara Murphy to come back. And yes. Thanks. That's the name. I was unclear how to spell. Isn't that Brown? Done. Yes, exactly. Donn. That's the one, Barbara. Yes. Thank you. These are the three saints. Saint Govnat at Ballyvorne at Imbolc, 11th of February. Saint Crovjarug at Cahar Crovjarug, the city well at Bealtaine. Sorry, totally forgive me for a moment of distraction. I had not a feeling of deja vu, but a feeling of a connection there when I read that. Crovjarug. What am I thinking of? Bovjarug. That's what I'm thinking of. At Bealtaine. That's Saint Govnat at Ballyvorne at Imbolc, Saint Crovjarug at Cahar Crovjarug, the city well at Bealtaine, and Saint Leithiaran, Laitiaoran, Leithiaran at Cullen, Quillen Ichiv at Lunasa. While this formulation does not follow the neat four-square path of the Ducha Allah arrangement, it still maintains the three major feasts and was probably convenient for many pilgrims as regards the distance they were required to travel. There is the well-known and highly popular pilgrimage to St. Govnat's Shrine, Relig Govnaton, at Ballyvorne at Imbolc. Here it is 11th of February, which is really 1st of February, the calendar having been corrected as it had lost alignment with the sun by 11 days. Cathy May was being distracted in a very nice way by looking at the Mythical Ireland store while listening. Brilliant. Great idea, Cathy May. Yes, indeed. Nora says, all good, just listening, as does Becca02. Yeah. Everybody's paying attention. Anyway, there will be a test at the end of the night, and we'll see just how well you were paying attention. I'm funny. Not. Sorry. Rewind. Yes. As it had lost a line with the sun by 11 days. Workers in Britain rioted in the streets, shouting, "Give us back our 11 days," as they had lost 11 days' pay. Well, isn't that typical? The shyster capitalists depriving the workers of their money, you know. Crovjarug, however, is something of a puzzle. According to the traditions, she is the sister of Saint Leithiaran and Saint Govnat. But the name is peculiar. It means red claw. And some writers have suggested some connection with the Celtic goddess of war, Macha, Bow, and Mór Rion. Bow, or the Bob, as you would have seen it, B-A-D-B, B-A-D-H-B-H, it's spelled here, the Bow, and Mór Rion, or Morrigan, who fly shrieking over warriors in battle. It is difficult to reconcile this with the peaceful saints of Ducha Allah. Nevertheless, there is an account of St. Bridget in the form of the Bow, the scald crow, inciting the soldiers in the ancient story Ca Almine. This is obviously a throwback to Bridget the goddess. NB says you. What do you mean I'm not fooling anyone? I can act. I will see you after class, Nora Gaffney O'Connor. Detention and 100 lines. I must not give cheek to my teacher. Yes. The city well, or the holy well. Yes, I would try to put the serious face on. And when I'm in really funny humor and I'm laughing, and I tried to put the serious face on, I end up looking like that centurion in the Biggest Dickus scene of Life of Brian. Yes. The Holy Well, or the City Well, associated with St. Crovjarug, is attached to the great stone fort Cahar Cravjarug, situated on the northern slopes of Dá Cíoch Danan, the Paps of Anu as we know them. It would appear that lines of even length drawn from the Paps would meet at the Cahar to form the triangle mentioned earlier in association with Kildare and other sacred sites. The dating of this construction, like many others of its kind, such as Staig Fort, is uncertain. Diarmaid Moynihan, who did a local study of the area of Sliabh Luachra, seems to suggest that this was an ancient ritual site connected especially with the festival of Bealtaine. Of course, that's in early May, and the formerly very large and popular Christian pilgrimage to the Cahir and Holy Well at Bealtaine is a Christianization of the pre-Christian ritual. According to Cormac MacQuillian, the great intellectual and King Bishop of Cashel, who we've mentioned already, in the 10th century, the people drove their cattle between two fires at Bealtaine to keep them healthy and free from disease for the coming year. And as I said on a previous live stream, an expression meaning that you're in a predicament, you're in a bind, you're caught between a rock and a hard place, is Idir na gá hinne Bealtaine, between the two Bealtaine fires. Apparently, I need a pipe too to look serious enough. That could be arranged. Stern face Anthony Muggs. Yeah, the mug will say, "You're late," and it'll have me making a little tick mark in a black book, yes, or a red book, whatever you want. Yes, yes, yes. Done in English from dun in Irish. Name refers to the colour of a cow's hide. Yes, indeed. Una knows her stuff. Becca says, "Oh no, I graduated my history degree already. You can't take it." Yes, all of the Monty Pythons come to mind. Yes, indeed. Throw him to the floor. Similarly, at Cahar Cravjarug, people brought their cattle from long distances and got them to drink the water from the Holy Well. The pilgrimage still continues, but with severely reduced numbers. But it does seem that here we have a genuine survival of an extremely ancient ritual. Again, it is suggested that as well as being a ritual site and remaining one, it also became a residence of the kings of Ciari Luachra. Moynihan sees local place names such as Á Henri and Cosán Henri, the ford of the king or the path of the king, as significant. But what of the old name? Could it possibly have any connection with Cahal Cravjarug Ó Crohor, king of Connacht, who founded Ballintubber Abbey, County Mayo, in 1216? This is the great abbey which managed to survive attacks and persecutions throughout the centuries and has been restored as a centre of pilgrimage. It is sited on the pilgrim path to Croagh-Patrick, Toher Pádraig, and by a fascinating coincidence, which I don't think is a coincidence at all, and I must find out if I still have that. Give me 1 second. Ballintubber. Patrick's Equinox Journey. I wonder, did I transfer that to the new website? That was an old blog post. Yes, I did. It's fascinating that there is a pilgrim path from Ballintubber to Croagh-Patrick, because that sits on an alignment that stretches right across the country from the Boyne Estuary, where Patrick landed, through the Hill of Slane, where he lit the Paschal Fire. And that is detailed in a blog post, which I will link, which I will paste into the comments here if you're interested. It's called Patrick's Equinox Journey. And it's something I wrote a long time ago. And details of which are incorporated into my book, Island of the Setting Sun, written with Richard Moore. Patrick's Equinox Journey. Link. There we go. Yes, it takes a second. Michael Palin's great-grandmother was Irish. He did a lovely film about her story too. Why doesn't that surprise me? Michael Palin seems like to be a really, really nice guy. John Cleese is my favourite. He reminds me of myself in so many ways, except for that I'm not funny and he is. But, 9 out of 10 ain't bad. I got distracted there. Barbara is saying someone is going to have to type up an Irish glossary for those who cannot spell in Irish. Yes. Gina Eggleton is saying hello from Oregon. Our friends in the Pacific Northwest are joining us. Gina, you're very welcome. And make yourself comfortable. Hope you enjoy yourself here. Laura is saying Tina Gibbons, nature-inspired mentor bits about Bridget here. Yes, indeed. This is a great book. Again, it is claimed, like many other sites, that Cahir... I don't think some of them realize I'm streaming. No, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about the singer out in the kitchen. Again, it is claimed, like many other sites, that Cahir Crave Jarrag was the Chawar Luachra, or Luachra Deda, mentioned so frequently in ancient literature, but this is uncertain. There is no denying, however, that this was, and to some extent remains, a highly important ritual site involving a saint/goddess who was one of a trio of saints/goddesses on the central feast of Bealtaine, the beginning of the bright half of the year, with the performance of a rite at a holy well, at which cows and cattle are involved, as mentioned in Sanach Cormac over 1,000 years ago. Patrick Logan quotes O'Donovan's account of Cahir Crave Jarrag, and I presume here O'Donovan is John O'Donovan and is probably quoting from the Ordnance Survey letters. In the townland of Gortnagowan, in the east division of this parish, Kilcummin Parish, County Kerry, there is a Cahir or circular stone fort called Cahir Crove Jarrag, i.e. the fort of the red-handed. In the west side of it is a holy well at which stations are performed by the peasantry on May Eve, who also drove their cattle into the fort and made them drink of the water of the holy well, which is believed to have the virtue to preserve them from all contagious distempers during the ensuing year. Logan, 1980, quotes Wilde with regard to the May Day practice of drawing a little blood from cattle at Rathcrohan, County Roscommon, the royal seat of the kings of Connacht. When I was a boy, I used to visit on a May morning the great Rath at Crohan, near the rampart at which the cave's mouth, the Hellmouth door of Ireland, which I think is a very poor name for it, is situated, and when all the great Connacht oxen of the extensive plains around were driven in to be bled, the peasantry gathered in with pots. Taking a little blood from animals and from people, notice the red and white pole outside a barber shop, was standard treatment. But what makes this account unique is that it was part of a Bealtaine ritual at Crochan beside Uinagat, the cave of the cats, or Uiv Crochan, the entrance to the dangerous other world, which features so largely in the mysterious ancient story Ach Tranera. In the darkness of the night of Samhain, when demons are abroad, Nera, N-E-A-R-A, the hero of the story, binds up a hanged man and carries him round on his back, seeking water, as he was very thirsty when he was hanged, or so the dead man tells him. For the hanged man is neither dead nor alive. This is the betwixt and between period of Samhain, when it is neither summer nor winter, neither day nor night. This is Icha Hamalesha, the night of chaos, when the barriers between the altar and the Chiantar have collapsed, and the inhabitants of the two regions coalesce. Eventually, the human Nara finds his way into the Shea of Crochan and is well treated by the Tuatha De Danann, and is given a beautiful banshee for his wife. While Nara fared rather well, Uav Crochan was a dangerous place from which supernatural birds, cats, and pigs emerged, all of whom were up to no good. Speaking of the great Connacht cemeteries, Professor Michael Herity mentions a curious phenomenon which perhaps may be a feature of other sacred sites. Professor Michael Herity, the archaeologist. Like the cemetery at Rathcroghan, Carnfree is surrounded by a great empty zone in which no later monuments were built. This excludes the ring forts, mundane habitations of the first 1,000 years after Christ, which were kept at least 400 to 500 meters away from the sacred central area on top of the ridge. This empty area between is thus a zone of avoidance, delimiting a sacred region around the cemetery and inauguration place. Water from the Boyne, lovely. Just having a look through the comments, please forgive me for my distraction. I want to know who that is. Somebody who loved Seán Ó Duinn. That is dun dun da Mindy Burgoyne. Hello, Mindy. How are you? Sure, it's a long time. Long time no see, long time no talk. Hope you are well. Happy New Year. So wonderful to see your comment. That is a nice surprise. Speaking of the great Connacht cemeteries, Professor, yes. Carnfree's friend, yes, we said that. Since there are numerous earthen enclosures in this area of Rathcroghan, the one mentioned by Wilde into which the cows were driven for bloodletting at Bealtaine must have been quite a large one, with a level interior and one gap, a ring fort or lish. While it is not mentioned, one wonders if the traditional rite of Bealtaine, the passing of the cows between two fires, Idir na Gá Hinne Bealtaine, was not practiced at the same time. This could be done, as it was in some farms, by lighting a fire at each side of the gap in the earthen ring on the outside. So that, Saskia is now making her voice heard, so that as each cow emerged from the interior of the rath, she passed automatically between the two fires of Bealtaine and was thus fortified against the diseases of the coming year. I think she's trying to make it known that she's hungry. And, well, I would feed you, Saskia, but I'm kind of in the middle of something. Do you mind? Like, can you hang on for 10 or 20 minutes, I know, in reality, her food is being prepared in the kitchen and she sees it and she knows it's on its way and she's getting excited. Yes, Desiree, she's been very vocal lately, hasn't she? She's trying to take Coda's job. In all of this, we can see a pattern emerging from the two ritual sites, Cahar Crov Jarug in County Kerry and Rathcroghan in Roscommon. At both sites, the ritual takes place at Bealtaine and is closely connected to the health of cattle. In the case of Rathcroghan, the cattle are bled, while in Cahar Crov Jarug, they are sprinkled with water from the holy well just beside the Cahar. Again, it is unknown if the passing between the two fires took place. Cahar Crov Jarug seems to be much more Christianized. It was and is a place of pilgrimage, and Saint Crov Jarug is one of the trio of local saints, Govnat, Crov Jarug, and Leitchiran. In comparing this arrangement to that of Ducha Allah, the system is as follows. Govnat replaces Lasir Imbulk at Ballyvorne or Ballyvorney. Crov Jarug replaces Inyan Vui Bealtaine at Cahar Crov Jarug, and Leitchiran remains unchanged, Lunasa at Cullen y Chuiv. Here is the rite of passing between two fires. Here, as the rite of passing between two fires has been mentioned as a traditional and widespread feature of the Feast of Bealtaine, we might wonder if any remnant of it remains, apart from those who deliberately practice it to continue the customs of their ancestors. Strangely, I believe that it may be found in an adapted form in a place where one would least expect it. among the rituals of the Catholic Church. The blessing of the throat on the feast of St. Blaise on the 3rd of February is a well-known and popular practice in the Catholic Church of the Roman Rite. I remember, as a kid, getting my throat blessed on St. Blaise's Day. Following the Rituale Romanum, the priest, wearing alb and stole, says a prayer of blessing over 2 candles and sprinkles them with holy water, which doesn't extinguish them, curiously enough, because he only sprinkles them. You see, the blessing prayer recalls that as a reward for the great sufferings which this bishop and martyr endured, among other privileges, God gave him the power to cure diseases of the throat for those who practice the rite with faith. A legend asserts that St. Blaise cured a boy who had swallowed a fish bone and was choking. After the blessing and sprinkling, what happens next is described in the rubric of the Rituale Romanum of the year 1895 and 1915. Just for fun, why don't I read it in Latin? And I'll try and read it as if I'm chanting in a church. Deinde sacerdos terminata missa deposita casula et manipulo accensus duobus seres ac ac, is that ac or as ac in modum crucis aptasis apponens illos submento guturi cujus vis benedictorum ipsis ante altare genuflectenibus dicat per intercession sancti blasi episcopi et martyris liberet et deus a malo guturus et aqualibet alio malo in nomine Patris et Filis et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. I actually can translate half of that. I know what half of that means, you know. Anyway, this is it in English. The Vatican will have you signed up, Anthony. No, if the Vatican signed me up, I would only sneak down into the archives and uncover the real truth. Should we address you as Father Murphy now? Anthony says, Rex, no, I don't think that would quite. I mean, doing an impression, as Una says, nice try, Anthony. Doing an impression is one thing. Passing it off is entirely another one, you know. Quick, another chalice of wine for our reader. Now, that's more like it, James Farrelly. This is the translation. Then the priest, the mass being ended, and his chasuble. I know how to pronounce that, and I'm blanking on it. Chasuble and maniple being laid aside, and 2 candles having been lighted and fastened together in the form of a cross, placing them under the chin of the throat of each one of those to be blessed, while they kneel before the altar, he says, through the intercession of St. Blaise, bishop and martyr, may God set you free from disease of the throat and from every other evil. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Chasuble. Is it chasuble or chasuble? Chasuble. Now, when we come to the Collectio Ritum for all the dioceses of Ireland published in 1960, there is one significant difference. The word accensis, lighted, is omitted, and following this, in the practice we follow today, the candles are indeed fastened together by a ribbon to form a cross and placed on the throat, but the candles are not lighted. Whereas in the Rituale Romanum of as late as 1915, they were lighted. When one thinks about it, the use of unlighted candles seems rather odd. It was probably introduced for health and safety reasons. Don't you know health and safety kill the buzz of everything, you know? Yes, indeed, Kathleen. I was just saying, I do remember myself, my throat being blessed on several occasions in different years on St. Blaise's Day. I remember asking a priest who had worked in Belgium about this. He told me that there it was taken for granted that the blessing of the throat was given with lighted candles, as the former Rituale Romanum had stipulated. What was the purpose of this change in the Rituale Romanum and the consequent diminution of the force of this rite? Presumably, it was thought that there was the practical danger of setting fire to people's hair. When I mentioned this to my friend, he assured me there was no danger. He said that in Belgium they used very long, slim candles, and the flame was way above the person's head. Now, when we examine this curious rite more closely and its popularity among the faithful, we are immediately reminded of passing between the two fires of Bealtaine and the well-known popular practice. See, this is where Ó Duinn was brilliant. He was brilliant at the crossover between what was pre-Christian or Celtic and what was, sorry. Yes, you know what I'm getting at. I completely distracted myself there, for which I apologize. Cormac's glossary explains the usage in this way: Bil tinne, i.e. a goodly fire, i.e. two fires which Druids used to make with great incantations, and they used to bring cattle to those fire as a preservative against the diseases of each year. And that's from Stokes's translation of Sanus Cormac. Fire is the great purifactor, and at the end of a long, dark and wet winter, people felt the need to cast off the colds and chills and enter into the cheerful period of summer renewed. The purpose of dividing the fire into two was purely practical. While humans circumambulate the fire Gieshel, keeping the fire at their right hand as they move around, following the course of the sun, cows cannot be persuaded to do this, or to jump over the fire and absorb its purifying heat and smoke. They can, however, be driven between two fires, and many farmers just lighted a little fire at each side of the gate and drove their cows through into the next field. Now, I wonder how many farmers still do that, because today we have vaccines, and cows and cattle are vaccinated at regular intervals for various scours and worms and all sorts of stuff. They're vaccinated against many diseases and illnesses. But I wonder how many farmers actually still light the Gáhin of Bealtaine and drive their cattle between them. Interesting. I suspect more than would probably admit to doing so, more than would sort of publicly let it be known that they do so, for fear that people chastise them for keeping up ancient rituals. But I mean, I think it's a lovely thing to do, to be honest, Children, no doubt, also carried their pet dogs or cats in the same way between the two fires. Sir William Wilde describes the practice among the humans. And this is all a quote here. If a man was about to perform a long journey, he leaped backwards and forwards 3 times through the fire to give him success in his undertaking. If about to wed, he did it to purify himself for the marriage state. If going to undertake some hazardous enterprise, he passed through the fire to render himself invulnerable. As the fire sank low, the girls trip across it to procure good husbands. Women great with child might be seen stepping through it to ensure a happy delivery. And happy, yes, after the delivery is the happy bit, not the... Anyway, not that I know anything of these things. I will stop talking there and continue with the quote. And children were also carried across the smouldering ashes as of old among the Canaanites. And that's the end of that quote. That's from Wilde, 1853, which undoubtedly is William Wilde's Beauties of the Boyne of Blackwater, is it? 1853. Let me just quickly. No, it's Irish Popular Superstitions, Dublin, 1953. The fire ritual was considered to be widely embracing in its effects, as is evident from Sir William's commentary. It is evident also that Sir William had watched very carefully the rite being performed and had consulted with local people about its meaning. It gave protection in travel, in hazardous enterprises, good luck to young women on the lookout for husbands, and safety in childbirth. Excuse me. Similarly, the blessing of St. Blaise is far wider than just protection from diseases of the throat. It says, et aqualibet alio malo, from every other evil. Similarly, sorry, I just read that bit. The lucid Helena says in Indian prayers they do something similar with 2 candles and similar movement. Wow. The lucid and engrossing research on the goddess done by Professor Pamela Berger from the Goddess Obscured, London 1988, shows the popularity of this Armenian saint, particularly in Belgium, France, and Germany, where he seems to take over the care of fertility of land and women traditionally associated with the goddess, and as a male saint more easily accepted by a male-orientated church than a woman. His name in French, Blaise, resembles blé, wheat, and women. On his feast day, 3rd of February, the beginning of the agricultural year, and feast of Imbolc, or Bridget, among the Irish, brought a bucket of wheat to the priest to be blessed, giving half of it to the priest, and mixing the blessed wheat with the seed to be sown in the field at spring sowing. Familiar territory here after last week's episode, number 207, which you can watch back on YouTube. Young women watched his statue very carefully in the church, and if the saint seemed to wink at them, it meant that they would soon be married. Nice one. Elaborate processions of carts depicting the various operations of the farmer's year took place around the countryside. In some of these areas where the pageantry of St. Blaise lasted on until interrupted by the First World War, the fertility role of the great goddess continued in a thinly obscured way in the form of devotion to a male saint. This presented no great difficulty for the official church, and anyway, St. Blaise, being a great and powerful saint in his own right, could no doubt influence God in matters of fertility and general health and prosperity. Here, as in the case of St. Bridget, the exact demarcation between saint and goddess is often obscure and a cause of some misgivings to theologians. The ordinary people, however, are less exercised by these considerations, and when life prospers, are well content with their lot, irrespective of its source. Traditionally, they rarely bother to distinguish if it is a local saint or the local goddess is responsible for their good luck. I think that says it all, doesn't it? Yes, I certainly have gone to the dogs tonight. I know. Saskia, you must be hungry. And nobody's feeding you. I guess I'll have to do it then. I don't know whose comment that is. You've gone to the dogs. Sounds like a baby elephant, says Kathy May. In Scotland, the lads always jumped over the fires at Samhain. Ah, very interesting. I seem to think, says Joe O'Keefe, most colds are caused by winter milk. If we compare then the rite of the blessing of the throat on the feast of St. Blaise, 3rd of February in the Catholic Church, and the Bealtaine blessing among the Celts of Ireland, it is clear that there are certain similarities and dissimilarities. Firstly, the church rite is indoors, while the Bealtaine rite is outdoors in accordance with Celtic custom as seen in pilgrimages to holy wells and sacred places, bonfire night, 23rd of June, etc. Secondly, both rites are on the sacred Celtic day of Imbolc, but the fire element is transferred from Bealtaine to Imbolc. Thirdly, 2 candles in the church take the place of the 2 fires of Bealtaine, 2 fires being impractical in the church building. Fourthly, the purpose is basically the same, protection from disease during the coming year, with particular emphasis on throat diseases in the case of St. Blaise. But as we have seen in the European context, the general fertility of land and women was stressed among the Celts. Release the hound, says Pat. Yes, indeed. It does seem that the blessing of the throat in the Catholic Church on the feast of St. Blaise is an adaptation by the Church of the Celtic rite of Gá Hine Bealtaine, though it is unknown precisely how this could have come about. In practice, it may be suggested that 2 large candlesticks with long, fat, lighted candles be used and set down on the floor of the church, so that each one receiving the blessing could walk between them, while the priest in Alban stole, standing nearby, recited the formula of blessing with the sign of the cross as each one passed through. Yes, yes, yes. This is the last page now, okay? And then we will get you some grub. Some scraps of fatty ham are available, I think. Just keep that between us for now. So if she knows that, she'll go absolutely ape schwunt. The prayer formula in the Rituale Romanum, quote, for deliverance from diseases of the throat and every other evil, unquote, reflects, no doubt, the, quote, great incantations, unquote, Cochin Cetliv Moriv of the Druids mentioned by the King Bishop Cormac MacQuillan. The great collector of folklore in Scotland, Alexander Carmichael, the author of the masterpiece Carmina Gaelica, actually, if we lenit it properly, remarks on the life and mentality of the people of the Highlands out of his vast experience of their ways. And this is a quote. Perhaps no people had a fuller ritual of song and story, of secular rite and religious ceremony than the Highlanders. Mirth and music, song and dance, tale and poem pervaded their lives, as electricity pervades the air. Religion, pagan or Christian, or both combined, permeated everything, blending and shading into one another like the iridescent colours of the rainbow. The people were sympathetic and synthetic, unable to see and careless to know where the secular began and the religious ended. An admirable union of elements in life for those who have lived it so truly and intensely as the Celtic races everywhere have done, and none more truly or more intensely than the ill understood and so-called illiterate Highlanders of Scotland. Wow. The feast of St. Blaise is celebrated with great ceremony and rejoicing in the city of Dubrovnik on the Croatian coast every year on 3rd of February. He is the patron of the city and is said to have warned the officials well in advance that the Venetians were preparing to attack them. His canopied relics are carried through the streets, swarming with people, and a great assembly of priests and bishops. And there ends Chapter 7, The Tradition of the Three Sisters, from the wonderful In Search of the Awesome Mystery, from the pen of the late Antahar Seán Ó Duinn, the Druid, as he was known. I will read more from that next week, because I think that's undoubtedly. I'm imagining some of you are very quiet there for a while, really, obviously very deep in concentration listening to all that. I hope you enjoyed it. Amadeus wants to know who is making that sweet pup fuss. He looks so concerned. Yeah, she's just hungry. Saskia, I've told you, she's 11. She's 11 this year. She's 11 now. She's going on 12 next November. But she's a very quiet and placid dog a lot of the time. But when she wants to let you know, for instance, I am bloody hungry, she gets feisty, you know. Come here. What? Come here. Come here. Come here. Yeah. You all right? You all right? Good girl. Yeah. Yeah. We'll get you something now shortly, okay? Is that all right? Yeah. She just shook herself like that, which I think is no. Which I think means, get me my food now, mofo. Thank you, Siobhan. I'm not sure if we said hello to you earlier. Didn't know you were there. Yeah. That's the wonderful Seán Ó Duinn. And I think something of the Celt in us, and I'm talking about, I'm generalizing here, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm certainly speaking for myself. Something of the Celt in us recognizes that there can sometimes be quite a thin veil between what is assumed to be Christian or Catholic and what is pre-Christian or Celtic or pagan, if you wish. Pagan's a poor word. So is Celtic. our feast days and rites and rituals apparently all derive from, I have to be very careful here, apparently all derive from Christian tradition, right? But in Ireland in particular, and we said this on many an occasion, in the early centuries of Christianity in Ireland, Christianity bended and melded itself. It melded with those Celtic or pre-Christian beliefs and rituals, such that at times, in places, it can be hard to distinguish one from the other. What was truly Christian from what was pre-Christian, you know. Anyway, fascinating stuff. As I said before, I had the wonderful pleasure of meeting Seán Ó Duinn on one occasion only. Our good friend Dolores Whelan, who we had a conversation episode with. Dolores knew him much better. I think she studied with him for a while, speaks very highly of him. And of course, Dolores Whelan is another person who writes across the traditions, who interweaves the Christian and the Catholic with the pre-Christian and the Celtic, because they are at times almost indistinguishable, you know. So there you go. Thank you. A lot of very nice comments to close out. Don't forget, if you're interested in having on the wall of your house that beautiful Bridget's cross, get your order in early, because Tom, it does take a couple of weeks to make them. Each is intricately handmade. It's quite a complex and time-consuming process. Sorry, I said hello to Siobhan already. Thank you. Enjoyed it, says Joe. Good stuff, Joe. Thanks a million. Don't forget to come back next week for more. And aside, says Karen Faye O'Loughlin, a holy well exists at the O'Loughlin Tower Castle, Gleninna, on the south side of Galway Bay. Yeah, they are a very, very commonplace feature. Barbara, thank you very much for joining us. A good night to you from the Boyne Valley. Kathy May, have a great day off. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for showing up. Rosemary Elliott Mercier says thank you. You're very, very welcome. Helena Breen, she wants a live spot on the stream too. Yes, she's now sitting back in her chair waiting patiently. Thank you, Helen. Have a wonderful week. Yes, you also. Reese now wants food. They're all at it now. Nora Gaffney, Slán, that was just fab. Thanks a million. Mila Buichas. Slán Goramaga Toga Bugay. You too, Nora. We'll see you next week, hopefully. And you'll probably, if you go for a dip in the sea over the next few days, it's probably warmer in the sea than it is on land. It's due to get very cold. Valerie Gallagher, great reading with Latin, loving the mixing cauldron. Thanks, Anthony. You're very welcome. My ultimate pleasure. Adrian O'Beglin, Guramai Mila Maigut, Ihawa Akarja, and you Augustosa Fain, Adrian, go gently. Toa Ara Galair, says Kathy May, August Tufain. Christian tradition just took from pre-Christian spirituality and warped it to work for their doctrine, says Miriam. I think in some cases they were also forced to sort of change things so that there would be no martyrs, you know. So interesting as always, Anthony. Many thanks, says Anne McCallum. Thank you, Anne. My great pleasure. Desiree Riley, great reading tonight, and both Mans Amadeus are loving Saskia's more frequent commentary in the last few episodes. You should keep her chair in the library. We love it. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see about that. It's still here, so I mean, I guess it's lingering, you know. Elaine, thank you for joining us, and my great pleasure. And 120 days and counting. Thank you, Auntie Joe. Have a great week. Thanks for everything. Gina, thank you. Been watching you since COVID lockdown. Brilliant stuff. Gina, a great pleasure to welcome you along to the live streams. I'm not sure who that is saying they'll rewatch in full. Forgive me, because the Mythical Ireland community comments are not up to date on Facebook. Another great show, says Robin. Have a great week, everyone. See you next time. And TY, of course, for thank you. Robin, thank you, and you're very welcome. Received my copy of Mythical Ireland today. Brilliant stuff, PMC. Hope you enjoy that. Barb Jordan, thank you and good night. You're very welcome. This is great. I always learn a lot. We're watching these, and I'm glad I caught alive. Brilliant stuff, Becca. Hopefully we'll see more of you. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Great fun, says Tom. Tom King, Ongawa. Thank you, Anthony and friends of the tour. Take care out there. Until next time. I hope she's well lit, Tom. I hope that flame is burning. Look forward to cracking it open, says PMC. Brilliant stuff. It's a deep dive in places. Short and long chapters and a mixture of material, but I hope you enjoy it. It's an eclectic mix. John Main, thank you. John, have a great day in San Francisco. Hope the rain stops for a while and the weather gets a bit more Californian. When are we having a cow barbecue at Newgrange? Well, actually, in the traditions of the ancients, we would actually be barbecuing a pig on a spit, but what an idea. Kelly Nikelly, who I didn't know was there because I didn't say hello to you earlier. Have a great day, Kelly. Thanks for joining us. Fergal Sheehy. Okay. People are still holding on to a lot of anger, understandable, about certain things relating to the church, you know. If anyone's interested in Gael Christian religion thought in the present, there's a wonderful book called Amanda Caravan. I think that's been auto-corrected. Anam Cara, Soul Friend. I think a lot of people on here would be very familiar with that, David, I think. And I have mentioned it on several occasions. And I have several copies in the library here. But yes, John O'Donoghue was another superb man. Again, had come from the Christian tradition and had left the church, you know. Wonderful episode. Thank you, Mariana. You're very welcome. Pat, you are also welcome. Nice to be present for live, says Janet. Thanks, Anthony. Thank you. I mean, you guys make it. Otherwise, I'm talking to myself. And let's be honest, that's just called a staff meeting. Anyway, all that remains for me to say is Ichawa Kulasov, Slán Fól, and most importantly, Tóga Bugé. See you soon, folks.